What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto King of Gods? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, the Yellow Flash, nephew of Tsunade Senju and student of the Toad Sage. Jiraiya was usually a very collected and observant individual, but right now he was freaking out. The reason, his wife Kushina Namikaze, the red hot-blooded habanero, was currently in labor again after a year. Once again, the Kyuubi was trying to break free, as he focused on maintaining the strength of the seal on her abdomen, while his aunt Tsunade and sister Shizune delivered the twins about to be born. They were currently in an undisclosed location, somewhere behind the Hokage monument, in a dull cave lit with countless candles. "Ah, I'll kill you Minato, you bastard, I had to go through this again because of you. I'll rip your balls out. Ah," the redhead in labor screamed at her husband who could only chuckle nervously while covering his crotch. Tsunade, Shizune and Bawako, the third Hokage's wife, could only watch the scene with an amused expression on their face. "Kushi darling, it will be alright, I promise. Aren't you excited to meet our babies?" the blonde asked as he tried to ease his wife's worries. It did not work. "Okay, the first of the two is here. It's a boy," exclaimed an excited Tsunade as she delivered the first baby and handed him off to Shizune. Said boy had blood-red hair with blonde highlights like his father and azure blue eyes that could put any ocean to shame. Minato was very excited to meet his last child, but decided to focus on maintaining the seal and glomping him after. The next one out was a baby girl who, like her father, had sun-kissed crimson hair and amethyst eyes like her mother with 2 whisker marks on each cheek. She would have looked like a carbon copy of Minato had it not been for her whiskers and eye color. While Bawako cleaned up the babies and wrapped them up in towels, the other 2 ladies and Minato along with Naruto made their way to a panting Kushina who smiled warmly while she gazed at her newborn children. "So, what have you decided to name your little angels? Who are their godparents? Can I name one? Or better, can I adopt one?" Tsunade asked with intense fervor, and fired one question after another. Minato couldn't help but chuckle at his aunt's antics. After the death of his uncle Dan, in the Third Shinobi World War, she had been only a shell of her former self. Even her teammates, Jiraiya and Orochimaru, couldn't cheer her up. She only became a little like her former self after his younger sister Shizune stared to apprentice under her, and her granduncle gave her a rather blunt yet comforting speech on how she was letting Dan's memory down and should instead focus on trying to accomplish his dreams and look after her precious people while she still has some left. This gave her the strength to remain in Konoha and continue her duties at the hospital. Shortly after that she started her medic program and Minato was hailed as the 4th Hokage, beating Orochimaru and Danzo for the position. Despite losing to Minato, Orochimaru didn't have any complaints as this allowed him to travel more and quench his thirst for knowledge and becoming a master of ninjutsu. "Well, me and Minato already came up with a name for our son. He is going to be a mama's boy, I just know it, so I have decided to name him Naruto Arashi Uzumaki Namikaze." Kushina replied with a warm smile on her face. This gesture was reciprocated by everyone. "Auntie Tsunade, would you do us the honor of naming her?" said Minato with a warm smile as he gestured toward the baby girl. This made Tsunade squeal like a fangirl before she went into a thinking stance and clapped her hands when she thought of the perfect name for her grandniece. She smiled and said, "I have the perfect name for her, since she looks like a replica of Kushina along with your blonde hair. Welcome to this family. Natsumi Uzumaki Namikaze." This made everyone very happy, especially Minato. Minato released a few tears, as that was the name of Minato's mother. As the family was chatting, they failed to notice a distortion in the air behind them, near the bed where the triplets were placed. Suddenly, out of a swirl in the air, a man wearing a black cloak and orange spiral mask walked out and slashed Bawako's back with a kunai and grabbed the nearest baby, which happened to be Naruto. As Bawako fell to the floor with a loud thud and screamed out, all the others in the room were alerted of the new presence between them. "Bawako Obaa-san!" Tsunade screamed out, watching the wife of her sensei writhing in agony on the floor, while a masked freak held a bloodied kunai to baby Naruto's neck, who started to cry out loud due to being moved so suddenly. "How the hell did he get in here and past my seals? And where are the Anbu I stationed outside? thought Minato as he watched helplessly as his son was in the hands of someone who could be potentially extremely dangerous. "Naru-chan, what do you want, you bastard?" screamed a Kushina, who had already started shedding tears as she watched the fate of her newborn son in the hands of a lunatic. "That's simple, I want you Jinchuriki. So, I kindly ask for the rest of you to step aside or your son dies at the ripe age of 10 minutes, stated the masked intruder as everyone's eyes widened, since Kushina's status as a Jinchuriki was known only to a select few in the village. Tsunade tried to move and get Naruto of the man's grasp but stopped after taking a step when she saw the freak push the kunai closer to Naruto's neck. "Now let's everyone calm down and talk this through like adults." Minato tried to stall so he could use his Hiraishin and get his baby out of this situation. "You should take your own advice, Hokage. I am perfectly calm, so do not worry about me. Now I hate repeating myself, so move her away from the Jinchuriki, otherwise you will lose your son," the man said as Naruto's cries got louder. This made Kushina cry even more as she saw her son in pain. All of a sudden, the man tossed Naruto in the air and Minato quickly leapt forward and caught his son, while Tsunade sprinted towards a dying Bawako and Shizune moved to check on the other kids, with Menma in her arms sleeping peacefully. As Minato made sure his son was safe, who had stopped crying and was looking at his father with a stunned expression on his face, but let out a happy giggle when he saw his father smile. Minato was broken out of his stupor when he saw a few explosive tags attached to the back of his son's blanket. As he threw the blanket away from his son and teleported the two of them to his safe house, he saw the man disappearing along with a still crying Kushina into a swirl that appeared out of thin air and carried them both somewhere. Minato's safe house, somewhere outside the village. Minato flashed to one of his safe houses and slid down the floor and cradled his son in his arms to prevent him from being hit anywhere. He halted in front of a bed and slowly put his son down on the bed, who he now noticed had fallen asleep somewhere amidst this whole fiasco. As he watched his son's chest rise and fall steadily, he started to think back on the events that took place and his mind began to formulate plans to deal with all kinds of scenarios that could possibly occur and how was he going to save both his wife and village. After making sure his son was safe, he made his way back to the cave where his other children were, with Tsunade and Shizune. "How is Bawako, Tsunade Obasan? Will she make it?" the village leader asked with remorse evident in his voice. The aged woman looked at him with a grim expression before continuing, "She'll alive Minato, but her spine was damaged by the slash and she has severe nerve damage as well. She may not be able to walk again but she will live. I have tried healing her to the best of my abilities and removed any bacteria that could have entered her system so you don't have to worry. How is Naruto and were you able to locate Kushina? I haven't been able to locate her yet, something is blocking me from flashing next to her. Her ring does have a Hiraishin seal. Maybe it is the masked man's influence? I need to go after them. Meanwhile please take my children to the Namikaze Mansi," stopped Minato as he heard rumbling in the distance, along with a malicious presence that could be felt throughout the village. He had an idea who or what it was and the hate-filled roar that would have made anyone pass out just confirmed his suspicion. Each and every one present in Konoha thought the same thing. The Kyuubi. Scene change. Konoha. It was just another peaceful night for the villagers who were enjoying themselves with their families, when they heard an inhuman roar that caused most of the civilians and many shinobi to fall down to their knees. All of them looked out of their windows and saw a sight they will never forget. The Kyuubi no Kitsune, the king of all the Biju, was at their doorstep and was destroying what they all worked hard to make. The shinobi all began gathering up their gear and fled towards the battlefield in an attempt to minimize or stop the Kyuubi's rampage, until their Hokages joined the battlefield. While the shinobi forces were subduing the beast, Minato was trying to capture the masked man, who is responsible for all this. He knew that the Kyuubi would never attack anything or anyone until it's antagonized, so to see him wrecking the village made Minato realize that he is under a genjutsu and a really powerful one at that, if it can subdue the strongest Biju the world knows of. The only one who has ever subdued the Kyuubi with the Mokuton or adamantine sealing chains was. But it can't be him, he died almost half a century ago. But there is no other explanation. He slipped past my barrier and Anbu guards, and passed through the village's defenses undetected, thought Minato as he dodged another barrage of kunai from his opponent. "Are you Uchiha Madara?" he asked. "I guess they don't call you a genius for nothing, Yondaime." The masked man responded as he took off his hood. The rest of the fight is the same as the one in canon, so I am not gonna waste my time writing that. With the Kyuubi. With Minato. He teleported the Kyuubi to the outskirts of Hai no Kuni, somewhere in a clearing. He trapped the fox in a cage-level barrier and flashed back to Kushina and the twins as he knew that only children of Uzumaki heritage were capable of containing the Biju's chakras safely and access it whenever they desired. Kushi-chan, I am splitting the Kyuubi's chakra into Natsumi using an alternate version of the Shiki Fusion, and using the 8 trigram seal. I'll seal it within our children. The consciousness of the Kyuubi will be sealed into Naruto. I want you to hold it down using your chains alongside Gamabunta-sama, Minato said as he summoned Gamabunta over the 9-tailed beast. Are you sure, Minato-kun? We don't even know whether the seal will work or not, Kushina panted out as she bound the Kyuubi using her gold chains. The fact that she was still alive even after the Biju was forced out of her is a miracle in itself. I know, Kushi-chan, but it's for the betterment of the village, stated Minato grimly. Oe, Gaki, do whatever you are doing quickly. I won't be able to hold him down for much, Gamabunta shouted, clearly not enjoying sitting on the strongest Biju, with a bleeding gash over his right eye. As soon as he heard that, Minato quickly weaved the signs for the Reaper Death Seal but added a few more, making it function differently. As soon as the Shinigami appeared, he requested the God of Death to split the chakra into Natsumi and the soul into Naruto. After the whole ordeal, it was time for the moment of truth. I hope it works, otherwise Kushina will have to raise our children alone, thought a distressed Minato as he watched the Shinigami extend his hand forward, but, instead of going through him, it sailed over him and extended towards the prison beside the T&I department, where criminals were imprisoned for serious offenses, like missing nins. He watched as the hand of the death god extended forward and retracted just as quickly, but this time a human soul was stationed within their hand. He watched as the death god swallowed the person whole, and breathed out a sigh of relief since his plan has worked. Minato, with the help of Kushina, had altered the seal a bit, which resulted in the Shinigami taking the soul of anyone the summoner had marked with a special seal instead of them. He had already marked a few people who were stationed to be executed in the week before Kushina went into labor, hoping to avoid something like this if complications arose during the delivery. The Shinigami turned its gaze onto Minato as the yellow eyes bore into his soul before speaking in a demonic language. Uoi evist m. Al krdba yabuka lasbi flad now ball mortal. You deceived me. Your sins had been noted, mortal. The death god looked towards Naruto as the death god eyes went wide before it vanished with demonic laughter. The demon was finally sealed and the family was complete. He went on ahead and hugged Kushina and his children and sighed. It was finally over. A few hours later, Namikaze household. Gaki, I knew you were a genius, but surviving the Reaper Death Seal, that's a new level of genius. I have never been more proud to call you my student before, stated Jiraiya the Toad Sage as he sipped on some sake. As soon as the word about the Kyuubi attack had gone out, both the Toad and Snake Sanins had returned as fast as possible. I concur. Minato, I must say I feel happy losing the seat of the Hokage to you. Well done, my friend, Orochimaru congratulated as he watched little Naruto trying to catch his sword, the Kusanagi in his tiny hands, and watched on as a smirk adorned his face, showing his amusement. Minato had flashed to where Naruto was as soon as he had returned home with Kushina and the kids. He was surprised to see him up and trying to take the Hiraishin kunai on the wall beside him but struggle miserably. He wished he had a camera to capture the pouting face of his newborn son, that had the power to swoon any lady with its cuteness. Kushina was now asleep as she had faced severe chakra exhaustion, and even with Tsunade's medical treatment she couldn't even stand straight now. The kids who he had sealed the Kyuubi into were asleep as well. Minato sighed happily with a smile. I hope this stays like this forever, said Minato as he smiled brightly as he slowly drifted off asleep. Unknown to him, a certain deity was staring at him, the same god of death with a demonic smile. The death god stared at Naruto before pointing a single finger as a red glow illuminated over his body, causing the sleeping infant to twist and turn before he slowly stopped. Sapphire eyes flickered open. Minato groaned as he sat up, his eyes quickly gazing about his room. Getting out from under the covers, he quickly got dressed and went downstairs for breakfast. It was about 8 in the morning, if the sun was any indication. He could already hear his family downstairs, Kushina frying eggs, and the incessant whining of his daughter, complaining about not eating ramen for breakfast. Frowning slightly, he made his way to the bottom of the staircase, arriving just in time to see Kushina set out a plate of eggs for everyone. Sitting down at the table, he began to eat rather slowly, as he watched Minami devour the eggs at high speed. "Ka-san, Tu-san, will we start training with the Kyuubi's chakra today? You said we would, you said?" whined the ever-excitable Natsumi. "That we did, Natsumi. Did you remember to read up on your schedule?" He smiled lightly at her. "Yeah, we're going to be running around the village, and then we're going to go through katas, and then we're going to unlock my chakra, so we can start tree climbing, and then—" "Natsumi, be quiet and eat your breakfast," shouted Kushina as she tapped Natsumi on the head with her spatula. Finishing his breakfast, he watched as Kushina and Natsumi headed out the door. Minato headed into the living room and began packing up everything he would need for that day: a few training kunai and shuriken, a scroll on the Uzumaki whirlwind fist style, and a few other training supplements. "Tu-san?" A quiet voice rang through the room. Jumping slightly at the unexpected noise, he turned and saw Naruto peeking over the railing on the staircase, his blue eyes staring at him. Flinching slightly at not realizing his son didn't eat his breakfast, he quickly tried to ascertain what his son wanted. "Yes, Naruto?" responded Minato with a neutral expression. Can I come train with you too?" Minato's eyes widened a little before settling on his normal expression. "Sorry Naru-chan, but right now we need to train Natumi for her to use the Kyuubi's chakra. It's very dangerous if she doesn't know how to control it if it starts going haywire." Flinching slightly at his son's dull eyes, barely sparkling in the corners with unshed tears. "Tell you what, I wasn't planning on telling you this until later, but your Ka-chan and I will train you when you enter the academy. I promise." Guiltily staring at his son's back as he ran across the doorway, he wondered back to when he first understood that Natsumi needed to come first. Naruto was a sad child. Born moments before the Kyuubi attack, he was affected by the chakra of the beast while still in the womb, as the beast resided in his mother during her pregnancy, poisoning his body and damaging his chakra core. As this was made known after Tsunade ran a diagnosis on him, this shocked them all. The damage resulted in minimal chakra reserves, barely enough to stay alive, and even what little he had was a mutated form of chakra, destructive and uncontrollable, that made so he couldn't even follow a less chakra expensive shinobi career such as a med nin or a genjutsu specialist. When they realized the problem a couple of weeks after his birth, his father tried sealing the leftovers of the Kyuubi's chakra that surrounded Konoha in him, hoping it would help like it did his daughter. Time skip. 2 years later. "Impressive Natsu-chan, to learn the Rasengan so quickly," a blonde man said, impressed with his 7-year-old daughter that had managed to learn one of his greatest technique, even if using a shadow clone to help. "Yeah, it took the toad pervert 3 years to master it, but you managed to learn in 5 months," said an happy red-haired woman to the same girl. Yes, that was the cause of his sadness. The fact that to stop the force of destruction that was the Kyuubi, his father the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Uzumaki Namikaze, and his godfather, Jiraiya of the Sannin Sennin, used a complex seal matrix to divide and seal the beast while exhausted Kushina was holding it with her chains. It had been pre-made, created by the two during the Third Shinobi War in the case of a Biju attack. The ones chosen as the chakra vessels were his sister, Natsumi, a small girl of 4 feet 2 feet with crimson red hair that normally wearing a purple kimono top with purple magatama's design, red ninja pants and white sandals. Being Hokage, his father never had a lot of time, always having a meeting or paperwork to occupy himself or the odd mission here and there. But he made time for Natsumi. He was there in their most important days, he was there to teach her his techniques, he was there. Whenever Naruto tried to talk to the man, if he even got past his secretary, he would get some variation of, "I'm busy," without even being looked at sometimes. His mother gave all her attention to Natsumi, he thought at least she would be by his side. She used to tuck him in at night and read him bedtime stories. Unfortunately, that stopped not long after she returned to active duty and started taking missions once again. She stopped putting him to sleep and wasn't at the house most of the day. He wouldn't complain much, but she stopped talking to him as much, But much like his father, she would always find time to teach Natsumi her techniques, having family fun while he was left behind. He felt so cold. Their godparents Jiraiya and Tsunade, one outside the village and the other busy most of the time, haven't talked with him at all since he was 4, and even before it was just some really short conversations. That lead Naruto to depression and doubt his existence, as after if no one cares about or needs him, what is the reason he exists, what proves he exists? His sister, too little to really understand what was happening, just talked with him sometimes when they crossed paths at the house. But since they didn't train together, and as he apparently couldn't be a shinobi, they had little to talk about, that and his jealousy for their treatment made so they was never that close during childhood. And so he didn't have even his family to escape from the hatred of village. But Naruto stopped caring after that. After his 7th birthday, things inside of the Uzumaki Namikaze mansion changed. The normal quiet boy personality had changed into a cold and calculating battle-armed character. He was so sick and fed up with everyone and everything. Naruto looked down towards the book that he held in his hand. This was his gift from the Sandaime Hokage. Naruto should give his thanks to the old man. Because of him he found something greater than chakra. As he once again looked towards his family outside the window, as they all had wide smiles on their face, Naruto scowled before getting into his meditation position as a red glow flowed around his body. Flashback. Naruto was sitting on the 2nd floor of his house looking at the party going on beneath him. As always, nobody but his parents, Makoto Uchiha and Hiruzen Sarutobi, bought him a gift. And even then Hiruzen and Makoto only bought him one because they had enough memory left in them to remember that the Uzumaki Namikazes had 2 children. They were only really close to Natsumi. Naruto watched as almost everyone important in the village gave his sister congratulations and presents, while the only one that came over to talk with him was Makoto-san and his parents, and that was only the simple, happy birthday. Sarutobi-san had left his gifts a distance away from Natsumi's. Naruto had prepared for another disappointment of a birthday, where he was forgotten by his family and everyone else. His sister too engrossed in their celebrations to think about their estranged brother, and their parents too focused on the party and his sister to remember their quiet son. But he decided to try to make something of it so it wouldn't be a complete loss. He decided to try to ask his parents for training once again, even if administrative, after months of giving up. As the party went on, Naruto waited till Minato and Kushina were free of entertaining the guests to try and speak with them. After a few minutes the two were finally alone, so Naruto approached. "Ka-san, Tu-san," came the boy's quiet voice. The 2 trained shinobi though still heard it over all the sounds of the party, and turned to meet their elder son. "What is it, Naruto-kun?" came his mother's voice as the 2 looked at him, a rare moment, he thought absently. "I wanted to know if you could start training me now," he said, his voice, against his will, showing a hint of hope. "Naruto, you know you can't be a shinobi. I am sorry, but training won't change that," Minato said gently, even if slightly frustrated for his son's insistence on the matter, but he knew the inability to use chakra hurt the boy, and he didn't want to worsen that. "Even if not as a shinobi, I have to be trained to be the Uzumaki clan head. I am the older brother," he said, pressing on. Minato and Kushina looked at each other. He had never asked for training as head, so they assumed he had realized that he wasn't to be the clan head of the Uzumaki. He was unable to be a shinobi after all. The conviction on his voice worried them though. They didn't want to hurt him, but they would have to make clear to him that the position wasn't his, and possible breaking his dream by doing so. They lead him further from the party before beginning. Kushina knelt so she was at his height. "Naruto-kun, you can't be shinobi clan head as you can't be a shinobi," she said softly, holding his shoulder. Naruto's eyes widened. That was his purpose, his reason, even if his parents didn't seem to care for him. His godparents might ignore him, the populace of the village dislike him, his sister might not be close to him, but he would have purpose as the clan head. He would be recognized for it, even if not as Naruto but as the Uzumaki clan head. He would have recognition. Non-shinobi can be clan heads. Hyuga clan, 596 AR Jaken Hyuga, crippled from the waist down, was the clan's head. Kurama clan, 704 AR Ryuka Kurama, untalented for the shinobi arts, gave up and focused on political training and was clan head. Yuki clan, 871 AR Jinsei Yuki, suffered from osteoporosis and was clan head. His frantic explanation was interrupted by his father. "Naruto, All those cases were during the Clan Wars era, where there was a strict law of succession to avoid any possibility of infighting, so even if incapable of being a shinobi, if able to rule the clan finances and political relations, the oldest would rule after the current head's death or leaving the post. But now, in the Hidden Village era, the successor is chosen, and even if there hasn't been a change of successor since Sume Inuzuka was chosen over her brother, who later turned traitor. Because of your condition, your mother and I felt that it would be better if Natsumi was chosen, said Minato, holding the boy's shoulder, trying to show support. Naruto started to hyperventilate. They couldn't do this. Without this, he was without reason, without motive to go on. Seeing the boy's condition, Kushina tried to comfort him, but as soon as she tried to hug him, he slapped her hand away and bolted, running out of the house, leaving trails of tears behind. Naruto. Both his parents yelled, but he reached the door and left. Kushina wanted to go to him, but Minato said to let him stay as it wasn't to rain that day and he needed the time for himself. Naruto ran and ran as he made it through the village, which was celebrating the death of the Kyuubi. He noticed that the villagers were glaring at him, but he didn't care as he sprinted through everything and everyone. Scene change. Unknown. Naruto came to a stop as he slipped and tumbled down into a strange forest. Shakily standing up, Naruto looked around the large forest. Where the hell am I? Said Naruto quietly as he looked around. Hiss. Naruto slowly turned around as his eyes widened to the highest degree. What the actual fuck is even that? Yelled Naruto as he stared at the giant scorpion before taking off. The scorpion let out another hiss before charging after Naruto, who was running faster than before. Naruto jumped over the overly sized tree root as he looked back to see that the scorpion crushed it with only a single pedipalp as he sweat dropped. Of fucking course. The scorpion, having enough, slammed its pincer into Naruto, causing him to slam into a tree as he spit up a glob of blood. Naruto felt his vision become blurry as the scorpion made its way to its prey. Naruto felt his consciousness slip as his head dropped. Wah! K up. Whack. Up. Wake up. Naruto's eyes snapped open as he was in a black void, as a strange purple-looking man floated inside of the void as he spoke in a voice that held absolute power. We shall speak later, now is not the time to talk. Take my power and slaughter this beast, said the Stang man as an aura of power bursted through Naruto's body as he felt immense power being floored inside of his body. Outside the mindscape, the scorpion used the Telson as he was going to inject Naruto with its venom. The arachnid was caught off guard as the Telson was caught in the hands of Naruto. The forest surrounding slowly started to feel overwhelmed as the power Naruto was exerting created great damage to the area. Naruto literally ripped the Telson from the scorpion as it hissed out in pure pain and agony. Naruto held a single arm up as the memories from earlier came back to him as his eyes switched from the normal color to a shade of crimson red. Die. Naruto released the energy beam that erased the scorpion and half of the trees in the Forest of Death. Once that was over, Naruto dropped to his knees as he fell unconscious, the aura leaving his body. Flashback end. Naruto slowly opened his eyes as the aura was still around him, glowing menacingly. It's finally time to make my entrance to the world, said Naruto with a smirk as he was finally going to leave this village and make a mark through the world. In the backyard of the Namikaze Manor, a party was taking place, birthday party by the looks of the balloons. Presents stacked in a pile by the corner and kids playing around. For today was October 10th, the day that the children of the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki were born. Natsumi Uzumaki Namikaze and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze were their names. Despite it being the same day that the Kyuubi had attacked the village 9 years ago, the spirits of the party occupants, along with the rest of the village, was a positive one, as it was also the same day that their Yondaime Hokage, along with many other brave shinobi, fought and defeated the Kyuubi, saving the village. However, before it was said that today was the birthday of Natsumi and Naruto, but really the only ones being the center of attention was Natsumi, while Naruto was sitting on a tree branch that overlooked the backyard. The boy was almost a perfect replica of his father mixed with his mother, which he had her crimson hair and tan skin. Naruto just sat on the branch as he looked down from his spot with an impassive gaze as he watched Mito getting dozens of presents. Naruto turned his head as this was going to be the last time he would see his family for a while. Naruto appeared inside of his room as he gathered every single belongings that he had accumulated over the years. None of the objects had now was from his parents, he hardly ever received anything from anyone. Ever since he was younger, he had to literally take care of himself just because of some stupid prophecy from a frog that his parents believed in. Naruto simply shook his head as he began meditating until the time was right. Naruto then felt a tug on his mind as if something were drawing him into his mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes as his face twisted into slight confusion. He began to walk inside of the strange place. It was so similar to a sewer. As he walked, Naruto began to hear the cries of a female and sniffles him and there. He narrowed his eyes at the sound and picked up his pace until he saw the light getting brighter. Naruto walked inside of the sewer-like room as he nearly gasped as he saw the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life. She had an angelic heart-shaped face, silky fair skin, and a cute button nose. She had long lusciously crimson hair and sky-blue colored eyes. She stood at an impressive height of 5 feet 9 to Naruto's shorter status. She was the literal incarnation of a goddess in Naruto's eyes as her looks was breathtaking. As Naruto walked over, the woman slowly looked up as she flinched at the noise. Naruto's azure blue seemed to capture her sky blue as the woman slowly stood up and walked to the bars. "Naruto-kun, is that you?" asked the woman weakly as Naruto tilted his head in confusion. She then dropped to her knees and began to apologize repeatedly. "I am so sorry, please forgive me. I just didn't want to be imprisoned again. I am sorry I caused you so much pain," she said as she began to weep. Naruto's eyes widened in realization before they softened. "You're the Kyuubi, aren't you?" The woman only responded with a small nod. "I understand if you hate me," said the woman as her eyes were so empty that Naruto felt a piece of his heart break. Something he didn't think was possible anymore. Naruto's legs started to walk on autopilot. It was as if something was drawing him to the Kyuubi. Naruto walked straight through the bars of the cage. The Kyuubi felt gentle arms wrap around her body as a warm feeling exploded inside of her chest. "It's okay, I forgive you. Besides, it's not your fault that you was sealed inside of me, and I understand why you wanted to get away from Konoha," said Naruto softly while she cried into his chest. "You didn't want to be sealed again, didn't you?" said Naruto as she once again nodded. Naruto grew a small smile on his face. "Then I promise that I will free you," said Naruto with a grin as she pulled away quickly and looked into his eyes with hers showing nothing but concern. But you can't. You will die," Kyuubi said in worry, causing Naruto to chuckle. "Relax, there is probably some sort of jutsu or seal out there that can free you." "Don't worry, I always keep my promises," said Naruto as he wiped the tears from her eyes. Naruto released her as she felt the warm sensation vanish, causing her to frown slightly. Naruto smiled at her before looking around as he frowned at the scenery. Naruto dropped into a meditation position as he closed his eyes and clapped his palms together. Kyuubi nearly lost balance as the entire landscape rumbled. She watched in complete awe as the large cage simply faded away. The mindscape seemed to get even bigger before the walls around the area began breaking. The water inside of the mindscale slowly became the most luscious grass she had ever seen. She watched in the distance as the most clearest water she ever seen appear. Naruto stood to his feet as he wipes the sweat off his brow. "That was heavily taxing, so how do you like it?" asked Naruto as she began to tear up before grabbing Naruto into a tight hug. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," exclaimed the Kyuubi with tears in her eyes. Naruto felt a blush rise to his face as he felt her skin. It was incredibly soft and silky for the great nine-tailed fox. "If you like the scenery, just wait till you see the house," said Naruto with a smirk. Once Kyuubi turned, her jaw dropped. It's beautiful," said Kyuubi with a warm smile. Naruto only chuckled before his facial features turned serious, snapping Kyuubi out of her shocked state. "Kyuubi, as you know about my treatment inside of the village, correct?" Kyuubi nodded at this, although sadly, since she could do nothing to help. Naruto closed his eyes before reopening to meet her gaze. "I am leaving the village for a while for 2 reasons. The first is because of the pain that it causes me to remain inside of here. The second is that I need to get stronger and the village is only stunting that growth," said Naruto as the Kyuubi nodded. She then smiled. "If that is so, then I will help you. Over the few years I had managed to gain 38% of my chakra," said Kyuubi proudly, causing Naruto to grin. That's perfect, Kyuubi, said Naruto as she held a hand to his cheek. Kyuubi, feeling Naruto time to go, quickly gave him something for his gratitude. Please call me by my real name. Kiyomi Kitsune. Before Naruto could say anything, he was pulled into a passionate kiss from Kiyomi as a feeling of electricity burst through each of their body. Naruto's eyes slowly fluttered open as he looked around. Was that a dream, thought Naruto, looking at his hands before they touched his lips. Of course not, thought Naruto as he shook his head with a blush, although he had a certain vixen on his mind. Kiyomi, huh? Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard the voice of Minato as he snuck out the window and arrived to the living room window. With Minato, everyone, if I may? Everyone in the party faltered as their heads turned to their yondaime. For my daughter Natsumi's 8th birthday, we present her gifts, said Minato as Jiraiya stepped up with a large scroll. Natsumi, would you like to be the next Toad Summoner? Asked Jiraiya with a large grin. Natsumi's eyes grew wide with stars in them. Heck yeah, I would. All but screamed Natsumi as every began to chuckle. Next it was Tsunade's turn. Natsumi, I will teach you in the ways of my super strength and take you on as my next student, said Tsunade with a shit-eating grin. Natsumi gave Tsunade a big hug, who hugged Beer back in return. Next it was Minato and Kushina. Natsumi, me and your mother decided that you will be the heir to Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, said Kushina excitedly, causing Natsumi's eyes to tear up with joy before she rushed towards the two and tackling them into a big hug. Everyone began to chuckle as they stared at the wonderful scene. However, there's a single boy who watched this scene from a window. With Naruto. Naruto stared at the scene as a drop of water hit his hand as he looked into the sky before twisting his head in confusion. Huh? It isn't raining, said Naruto before looking back at his hands as more droplets splash on them. He slowly reached towards his face. Oh, these are tears, he said softly as he nearly stumbled walking back to his room. Not even realizing that he was actually flying. Mindscape. Inside of the mindscape, Kyuubi was losing her shit as she saw the scene play on. She literally oozed the amount of bloodlust as it affected the surroundings. The once clear and beautiful sky turned into ferocious crimson clouds. The raining water turned into a midnight black color as she raged. Kiyomi looked into the sky with nothing but hatred. 9 tails protruded from her back as they swayed dangerously as the sight was absolutely terrifying. I swear I will kill you, Minato, said Kiyomi with a dark sneer on her face. Time skip 3 a.m. It was currently 3 morning. The party had ended after a while with people either drunk or just went home. It was at this exact time a crimson red-haired boy sat in a meditation position. His eyes then snapped open, showing no emotion whatsoever. He stood up as he began to walk to the window. He looked down at the seal on his arm before turning back and gently opening the window. He watched the beautiful moon and the scenery that the village began to show off. It was an admirable sight to behold. Naruto opened the window before jumping out and landing without making a single sound. Without even a glance back, he took off. Showing extreme agility, he took to the roofs to avoid meeting the police patrols or the Anbu that worked for his father. Naruto jumped down from the nearest post as he made it to the entrance of Konoha as he saw the 2 gate guards sleeping on the job. Naruto shrugged before walking straight past them as he got a distance from Konoha before a Chunin landed to the ground. The man has white shoulder-length hair with a slight hint of blue to it and green eyes. He wore the standard attire of the Konoha nin before his defection, which included the Chunin flap jacket and standard headband. This was Mizuki Toji. Naruto narrowed his eyes dangerously at the man. He had been the one to direct the mobs to his location, even joining in on some. What are you doing here, Mizuki? Said Naruto in an emotionless tone, causing the man to chuckle darkly. Imagine my absolute luck to find you leaving the village after my patrolling, said Mizuki with a sick grin as he removed the Fuma shuriken from his back. Today's the day you die, demon, shouted Mizuki before throwing the large shuriken to Naruto. Naruto-kun, do you need my chakra? Asked Kyuubi as Naruto simply shook his head no. I am fine, Kiyomi-chan, this will barely take a minute, said Naruto as the Fuma shuriken approached him. To Mizuki's utter shock, Naruto caught the Fuma shuriken mid-air. Mizuki stumbled back a bit as a 8-year-old child caught the shuriken with ease. Mizuki then growled in anger before speaking. I knew you were a demon. After I am done with you, the civilian council will be sure to pay me wealthy. said Mizuki, his grin becoming more crazed. Naruto, having enough, stepped closer as Mizuku drew a kunai. Like, what are you go? Mizuku was cut off as he felt a pain in his gut as he slowly looked down to see the fist of Naruto extended. Why, you little… Mizuki was again cut off as a reddish orb was blasted into his stomach. Mizuki spat out a massive amount of blood and was blown back with such force that he broke through 3 trees. Before Mizuki could even scream in pain, a hand covered his mouth. Mizuki, do you know what you and this Kami-forsaken village did to me? Asked Naruto, his tone emotionless. Before Mizuki could reply, his leg was literally shattered like glass. Mizuki tried to scream in pain, but it was being muffled. All the beatings, all of the neglect, the stabbings would make a regular person go insane or maybe kill themselves. It's people like you. Mizuki once again gasped in shock and pain as his other leg was being crushed. Mizuki looked into Naruto's eyes with pleading eyes. Mercy, please, begged Mizuki as Naruto gave him apathetic look. Sorry, all out of mercy. Mizuki screamed in pain as one of the red energy attack grind into his arm, making it useless. Mizuki had tears dripping from his face from the excruciating pain. Now it's time for you to die, said Naruto as the reddish orb began to grow in size as he ignored the cries of Mizuki. Naru-kun, stop, I have something better than death, said the vixen with a devilish grin. Naruto raised an eyebrow but listened to what she had to say, and once she was done he was impressed. The energy blast in Naruto's hand began to shrink until nothing. I'm not going to kill you, Naruto said to the man. Mizuki's eyes filled with hope. Thank you, exclaimed Mizuki with happiness as a look of total joy washed over his face. However, Naruto yanked up Mizuki, who looked him in the eye, which was something worse than death for him. Mizuki dropped to the ground as he screamed in pure horror and agonizing pain before collapsing unconscious. Naruto smirked and walked away, leaving the nearly brain-dead shinobi in the open. Naruto's feet began to levitate from the ground as he smiled slightly. So it does work, he thought before he began to fly. The first step into the nations. Time skip. Next day, Natsumi sat in class staring at the teacher Iruka boredly. On her left sat Ino Yamanaka, the heir to the Yamanaka clan. And to her right sat Hinata Hyuga, the girl who strangely had a crush on her Oni-chan, who wasn't here for some strange reason. Something about this ticked Natsumi off. She didn't know why, but something about her girlfriends being around Naruto set her on edge. This was one of the reasons why she told her friends to avoid him at all cost and made up some petty lie about him being a troublemaker. Speaking of Naruto, she couldn't find him anywhere. Again, he was maybe skipping her in the class, though her real friends were Ino and Hinata. Though she now wanted to spend time with her brother. Natsumi finally realized that Naruto was not really being treated more, so she tried to spend more time with him, but the other kids always go in the way and he would be gone before she could get to him. Though a few more people did try to be Naruto's friends, but it didn't last. For they only became his friend to try and get his sister to notice them more, so when Naruto found that out he quickly ignored all of them and from that point on just stayed to himself even more. Making him the only one who didn't try to go for what the class call SL princesses. Hinata, Ino, and Natsumi. For all 3 of them have become quite beautiful for their ages. So, what is your plan this time, Narumi? Ino asked. Course, she just answered with a heavy sigh, saying, I don't know, all my plans have failed thanks to those stupid boys getting in the way. I don't even know if he will accept it anyway. I mean, what if he hates me already for totally ignoring him for so long? Said Natsumi as she has been trying to spend more time with her brother for the last week, but each try has failed. Well, I am sure your next one will work out. Besides, Naruto-kun has to forgive you, right? Said Hinata, trying to cheer her up. Natsumi smiled. Yeah, you are right, I mean, we are family. Narumi says, a bit happier, but was really wondering if he even thinks that he is a part of our family still with all we done to him. Well, I will just have to make it up to him. Natsumi really loved her brother. She had finally stopped being so childish and started to show her maturity age. The village is making it really hard, seeing as they wanted to keep everyone away from the demon brat. Though she never really understood why they called him a demon while she had all the chakra of it. I mean, wouldn't make more sense for the one with the power to be more like the demon? Was it possible that it could have been the other way around? Meanwhile, Kushina was thinking along the same lines. She was shopping at a random store and she decided to buy something for both of her kids. I know Natsumi would love this, she said, grabbing a scroll on a new water. Just you. Okay, then now for Naruto. Wait, what does he like? Wow, I am such a horrible mother. I mean, I know everything about Natsumi, but I know nothing about Naruto. Wait. Her eyes widened in complete shock before a worried expression crossed her face. We forgot about his birthday, said Kushina in shock as a determined expression appeared on her face. Well, I will change that. We are going to start training him in the family styles. Yes, we will make it up to him. And with that she walked out of the store after grabbing a random ninjutsu scroll and went to find Minato. Minato was sitting at his desk thinking of his family, or more importantly the way it is not complete. I told Naruto I need to train his sister first, but right now she is really good in the styles. Plus I am sure it will put him back into the family because we kind of were leaving him out of the group. So, I guess that I can tell him it will be his makeup present. Yup, that will make everything right again. I mean, who wouldn't want to learn our clan's skills? Said Minato happily before flashing away. Scene change, Namikaze estate. At the house, Kushina decided to talk to her husband. Honey, I have been thinking about Naruto. Kushina tells Minato. Minato eyes shined. Really, so have I. Exclaimed Minato with a big grin. Really, so, what have you been thinking about? Kushina asks. Well, we have been ignoring Naruto for way too long, so how about we start his training in our styles and justice? What do you think? I was just about to suggest the same thing, so let's just wait for the kids. And with that they started to make dinner together until they finally heard the door open up. Hey mom, dad, I am home, Natsumi says loudly as the two turned to her. Welcome home, honey. Do you know where your brother is? Kushina asks happily. You mean that he wasn't home already? He was gone from school before I could even try and find him today, Natsumi says. So, they decided to wait for Naruto, and while they did they filled in Natsumi on their idea, which brought up Natsumi's mood. After an hour everyone began to get nervous. Natsumi, go check your brother's room, said Minato in a fit of worry. Natsumi only nodded before taking off to her brother's room. Kushina. When was the last time we even talked to Naruto? Asked Minato sadly as Kushina tried to talk but she bit back, couldn't find anything to say. The couple then heard loud shout as Minato flashed him and Kushina to the room. Natsumi, what's the matter? Said Minato as Natsumi turned to him with tears in her eyes. Minato and Kushina then saw the room, which was barren. There was nothing but white walls, no furniture, no toys, no pictures, there wasn't anything. Natsumi, stay here, me and your mother are going to find your brother, said Minato quickly as she could only nod as they flashed to the Hokage building. Inu, Neko, Taka, Kuma, Tora. 5 Anbu dropped down to the floor in front of Minato and Kushina. Find my son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, said Minato in authority tone. Hi, Hokage-sama. Anbu vanished with a burst of great speed. Minato, what is going on? Asked Kushina as a deep feeling was starting to pull on her heart. I don't know, said Minato with a sigh. After a while the Anbu appeared with a body, but this was not Naruto, it was Mizuki. Hokage-sama, said Inu as he walked up with a somber expression behind his mask. Naruto-sama is not in the village. An unholy amount of killer intent radiated from the entire cage tower as this was from Kushina. What? Minato eyes widened in shock and horror at the news. The Anbu inside of the room paled as they felt the killer intent from Kushina. Within a literal second, Minato flashed in front of the Anbu. Minato eyes took on a serious gaze. Anbu. Alert every Konoha tracking teams that are available and report to my office ASAP. The Anbu chorused yes and vanished in a burst of speed. When the Anbu left, Kushina fell back into the arms of Minato and began to weep at the loss of her child. It's okay, Kushina. I promise we will find Naruto and beg him to join our family once again, said Minato determinedly as Kushina cried into his chest. Minato looked outside where the rain was falling. Naruto, where could you possibly be? Scene change. The thunder crackled as a hooded figure walked through the pouring storm. The hooded figure slowly raised his head as blood-red eyes focused on his path. It had only been 2 days since the departure of Naruto and he had never felt so free in his life. Making his way down the path, he heard the sounds of fighting. Halting for a moment, his ears picked up as he heard a scream. Naruto's eyes widened as he took off with tremendous speeds. A child that looked to be the age of 8 was standing protectively in front of another young girl who looked to be the same age as the taller girl. Tyr, stand behind me, ordered the girl with the short sword. Tyr looked up to her sister with tears in her eyes. No, Gustiva, it's too dangerous. They will kill you, said Tyr with tears in her eyes. Gustiva gave her a sad smile. It's okay, I will handle this. Just get away far as you can while I try to hold them off. Tyr furiously shook her head in disagreement. Tyr stood to her feet as she drew a kunai and SMG avenue her a shaky smile. No, we're in this together forever, said Tyr as Gustiva gripped her sword. The bandit group in front of them only laughed madly. The leader of the group walked up arrogantly with a lecherous grin. Round them up, boys, it's only a shame that their mother fought till her death, said the man with a boisterous laughter. This man name was Bojack. Bojack was a man of average height and was very overweight. He had black hair and an untamed beard that looks as if it was never washed before. He was the leader of an infamous bandit group called the Black Jacks. This group was known to terrorize small villages, looting and destroying them in the process. The group had over 100 bandits. None were shinobi or samurai, but their numbers were the main reasons they stood a chance. Gustiva clenched her fist even tighter as she suppressed the urge to let her tears fall. She glared heatedly at the man. I will kill you. Gustiva moved off in a burst of speed as she slashed her blade, which only met the blade of Bojack. Bojack grinned dangerously. Pathetic. Gustiva was blown back from the relation of Bojack blade, which caused her skidding away. Before she could hit the ground, she was caught by Tyr. Gustiva, are you okay? Said Tyr in worry as she only nodded. Tyr, do you remember that move Dad taught us? Asked Gustiva seriously as Tyr's eyes widened. The two nodded towards each other as they got into a stance. The two girls burst from their position with their max speed as they sent their attacks towards Bojack, whose eyes narrowed. That's it, move like the blade, thought Gustiva as her attacks became more pristine and sharp. Become one with each other as if you were a single person, thought Tyr as the two moved in perfect synchronization. Bojack's eyes widened as he was caught off guard. He tried to move, but it was too late. And strike, shouted the two girls as Bojack cried out in pain as a large X was carved into his chest, sending him crashing back. Sir, shouted the bandits as they rushed from their positions. Bojack's eyes turned murderous as he clutched his chest, pointing towards them. You little bitches. Grab the girls, I'm gonna turn them into my playthings, said Bojack in anger as the bandits rushed towards the girls. Seems like this is it, huh, Tyr? Said Gustiva with a sad smile as Tyr could only laugh sadly. Yeah, I just want you to know that I love you, sis, said Tyr as Gustiva smiled back towards her. I love you as well, little sister. They were about to rush in. That was until a beam-like substance hit the ground where the band stood. Send them crashing backwards. Dust and debris picked up as the two girls had to cover their eyes from the smoke. Everyone could only see a hazy figure standing in the dust as it slowly started to blow away, showing the figure. Everyone saw a boy who looked no older than 8 years old, standing with his arms crossed and a hard glare. Though was quite tall, standing at 4 feet 11 with spiky blonde hair with crimson bangs and crimson red eyes. He has blonde hair with crimson strands. The bandit that was blown back stood to his feet as he grabbed his katana. Ill kill ya, punk. The bandit let out a roar as he rushed towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes roamed towards the bandit as he shook his head. Foolish. Naruto lifted a single finger as a beam released from his hand, piercing through the man's head. The man collapsed to the ground, dead. Everyone's eyes widened in shock and terror. Bojack stood to his feet as he shakily pointed to the body of his now dead man. How? Shouted Bojack in anger at his dead bandit companion. Naruto's face remained apathetic. Simple, I pointed a finger and boom, he's dead. Bojack's eyebrow twitched dangerously. Gustiva and Tyr had to hold back a snicker. Brothers, kill him, roared Bojack in rage as his pride was being damaged. The bandits wasted no time as they charged towards Naruto with the intent to kill. Naruto's grin became dark as his eyes began to shine with murderous glee. Your future is death. It had happened so within the blink of an eye. Naruto blitzed through the entire army like a beast. Bodies were torn and thrown by the sheer will of his power. Naruto created key blades from his hands and ripped through the army as if it were mere paper. Through this entire battle, Bojack's jaw dropped as he could only watch as his men were slaughtered right before his eyes. The two girls watched in awe as they saw their savior. Bojack dropped to his knees. 100 men. And my army is gone, said Bojack as his eyes drifted to Naruto, whose face remained bored. Bojack's eyes looked over the entire area as his began to chuckle as if he were insane. Brat, I don't give a damn who you are because you are going to die, said Bojack with a crazed look in his eyes as he took out a syringe and stabbed himself. Bojack's pupils dilated as his skin turned to a darker shade as his body collapsed to the floor and began to spasm. Steam began to resonate off of his body as a fluctuation of chakra burst from his body. His eyes snapped open as he jumped to his feet. Naruto narrowed his eyes as a voice hollered in his head. Naruto-kun, be wary of this individual. I sense the hero water inside of his system. Draw upon my power if this gets out of hand, said Kiyomi in a worried tone. Naruto twisted his head in slight confusion. Hero water. What is that? Asked Naruto as Kiyomi began to explain. By drinking the water, it allows anyone to have at least a 10-fold increase in chakra for a short period of time. That is why I want you to be careful, said Kiyomi. Naruto gave a small smile and thanked her. Don't worry, Kyo-chan, this will be easy work, responded Naruto as he broke the connection. Naruto's eyes roamed the body of Bojack, who gave a bloodthirsty grin. Naruto looked back to the girls as he spoke. You too. The girls perked up as they stared at him. Step back, this will get dangerous for you two to be here, said Naruto as the girls turned towards each other before running to a far distance. We will leave, but be safe, please, said Gustiva with a worried tone as she took Tear and moved away. Naruto felt something stir inside of him but shook it off as he turned to Bojack. Naruto smirked as he decided to show off and flex his power. The ground began to shake violently as a dark reddish energy began to surround his body. Imagine it's red, Bojack snarled. I don't know where you came from, brat, but I am going to send you to hell, roared Bojack as he rushed to Naruto with great speeds. Your arrogance will be your demise, said Naruto as he took off with great speeds. Both fists collided with each other as a shockwave was set off in the area. Bojack was blown back from the sheer force of the punch as he skidded in his feet to stop his movement. Naruto was sent back as well. He dug his feet into the ground as he came to a halt. Naruto's hand began to twitch as he clenched them tight. For a brat, you're strong, said Bojack with a dark sneer. Naruto smirked. And for a jackass, you're a weakling, retorted Naruto as the man only growled. I'm done toying with you. You die now, said Naruto as his ki began even more fiery. A red energy ball appeared in Naruto's hand as it was similar to the Rasengan. Bojack wasted no time as he rushed towards Naruto with his full speed. Ha, I got you now, brat, said Bojack as he was intended to kill Naruto with his last attack. Naruto smirked and faster than the eye could see, Naruto was in between his guard. Too slow, die. Naruto slammed the energy ball into the stomach of Bojack, who hunched over before being blasted high into the sky. Once Bojack was into the sky, a large explosion radiated throughout the entire clearing. Naruto turned his back as he simply walked away, not even looking at the mass explosion. Gustiva and Tear jaw dropped at the sheer amount of power from Naruto. Seeing Naruto kill Bojack, the two girls rushed over towards Naruto and wrapped him into a big hug. Thank you. How will we ever repay you? Said Gustiva as she was now crying tears of joy along with Tear. Naruto gently patted them on the back. There, it's okay now, he's not going to hurt you anymore, said Naruto with a gentle smile. The two girls pulled away slowly with a teary smile, along with feeling a bit sad at missing the warmness of the stranger. Naruto looked them over and thought, they have good teamwork strategies and when in combat they are in sync, thought Naruto. Suddenly a feminine voice spoke inside his mind. Naruto-kun, both of these girls have vast potential. Especially the blonde-haired one. I sense a deep power dwelling inside of her just waiting to explode, said Kiyomi, and Naruto mentally agreed. Naruto looked them over. Have you girls ever trained or been in a real fight before? Asked Naruto as they only shook their heads no. Our father was a well-known ronin who did jobs around the elemental nations. Once he found and saved our mother, the two fell in love and after a while we were born, said Gustavo with a sad smile. Naruto looked the two girls over before his eyes widened in realization. Are you saying that your father was? Gustavo and Tyr nodded sadly. Yes, our father was the famous black swordsman. Guts, finished Gustavo. I've heard of him. That woman spoke of the story of how she was defeated by him, said Naruto referring to Kushina. How would you both like to join me? I am on a quest to gain power and become the strongest person to walk the elemental nations. Will you follow me? Said Naruto a bit stoically, but you could hear the tiny embarrassment in his tone. Gustavo and Tyr turned towards each other before nodding. Yes, we will follow you, Naruto-sama, said the two with a bow as Naruto held a hand to his face to cover the small blush. And no need for sama, just call me Naruto, said Naruto as the two girls shrugged. We pledge our allegiance to you, Naruto-kun, said the two as Naruto's small blush increased. Just what the hell have I gotten myself into, whined Naruto internally while the Kyuubi laughed her ass off. Large time skip 8 years. The span of 8 years seemed to have gone by in an instant. Although, one thing that has stirred inside of the elemental nations was the disappearance of the Yondaime son. Many nations sent shinobi after the lost son of the Hokage. The two nations who mostly sent shinobi after him was Kumo and Iwagakure, with some barely coming back with their lives barely in their palm. No one was able to find out the true reason why so many shinobi were being killed, and after the second year of sending shinobis to their death, the two nations stopped sending Stair Brigade. In a nearly destroyed forest, a group of men were running for their lives. The man who seemed like he was in charge of the small ran with his full might. He couldn't stop. If he did, then he would simply die. He doesn't even know how any of this happened. It just happened so fast. In the beginning he started out with 150 bandits. They raided villages, took over small lands. With them together he felt truly unstoppable. That was until they ran into a certain group of mercenaries. Kaido shook his head as his face showed nothing but true fear etched on it. Hurry, we have to lose those bastards now, said Kaido as he clutched his bleeding arm. Suddenly a figure in a black cloak landed from the tree. Kaido and his men eyes widened in shock and pure terror. Turn around. But once when they turned around they met another cloaked figure. The bandit group felt their fear grow immensely as a sense of dread filled their entire core. The figure from behind them walked up and spoke in a feminine tone. Give yo Kaido, you have already been marked for death. Your escape has been inevitable, said the figure as the men began to sweat drastically. Kaido gritted his teeth and gripped his battle axe tightly. Go ahead and try it, you will die trying, said Kaido as him along with his men charged towards the two. The cloaked figures glanced their eyes back as in a far distance, red demonic eyes glowed menacingly. You're finished, roared Kaido as he swung his axe down, aiming to decapitate the hooded figures. The cloaked figure on the left stood unflinchingly while the figure on the right slipped an arm from the cloak as in their hand was a strange-looking blade. The figure looked to be bored as the person uttered out in a feminine tone. Ola Azul. The cloaked individual lazily slashed their sword as a wave of yellow energy exploded from it. Kaido's eyes widened as he tried to block the incoming attack but failed miserably as he was sent crashing back into multiple trees. The rest of his men snapped their heads towards the figure whose sword was still glowing brightly as they charged in anger. The figure held a stoic nature as the person once again drew that strange-looking blade, until a hand was stopped in front of said person. The cloaked figure on the right drew an rather large dragon slayer sword. Kaido, who was clutching his stomach, eyes widened in absolute horror as he began to stammer. No wait you fools, it's the dark triad, but unfortunately for them, it was too late as their heads were taken from their body. Kaido watched as his men died in one fell swoop, fear sketched on his face. The figures began to walk over towards the downed Kaido. So any last words before you die? Asked the right cloaked figure as the large blade was pointed at his throat. Kaido burst into humorless laughter. The Black Triad, the mercenary group who has never failed a single bounty hunting mission, said Kaido as he sneered. For my last words. Burn in hell. Before he could finish that sentence his head was removed. TCH, that bastard was too noisy, said the cloaked person as it was also the voice of a female. Good work you two, you both have come a long way. I'm proud of the both of you. The two turned around as the voice of a young man spoke. Under the cloak both of the women sported a blush at what the new figure said. "Then can we finally take off these cloaks? I got blood on mine," said the woman in a bland tone on the right. The male figure chuckled slightly. "Of course, besides I miss seeing the rather beautiful woman under the cloak," said the figure as the woman blushed in embarrassment. "Whatever I am not doing this to get attention from you or anything like that, you idiot," said the woman as she removed the cloak, revealing a rather beautiful young woman. This was Gustiva. Gustiva has a dark skin appearance with short black hair and onyx black eyes. Despite being the age of 16, she was rather tall for her age, standing at 5 feet 8 with a figure that most women would kill for. The woman next to her pouted as she too removed her cloak, revealing Tyr. Throughout the years, Tyr had grown out of her shy shell and transformed into a beautiful woman. Tyr is a tall woman standing at 5 feet 9 of curvaceous and well-endowed frame. She has olive skin, aqua green eyes, thick eyelashes, and short golden blonde hair, which she usually keeps messy with 3 braided locks. Gustiva's eyes narrowed towards Tyr, whose eyes narrowed back as they turned towards hooded figure. "Naruto-kun, don't I look better than her?" said the two. Before pointing towards each other before lighting began to spark between the two. The no-known Naruto sweat dropped as he removed the cloak. Over the years, Naruto has grown into a very attractive young man. He had grown to the height of 6 feet 2, he has the most beautiful shade of crimson-red eyes that would set others in a trance. Along with that, he has shorter and spiky blonde hair that reaches down to his neck. His structure was literally built different, as his body looked to have been carved out of stone. The two girls stopped glaring as they set their eyes on Naruto as drool began to leave their lips. "Actually both of you are very beautiful women that anyone would kill for. Gustiva, you have a very unique charm about you even though you seem like a tomboy. You have a kind side that would capture any man's heart and then some," said Naruto as Gustiva's whole body turned the shade of red. Naruto turned his attention to Tyr. "Tyr, you are what every man would dream of. Your flawless skin and beautiful eyes would set men into a trance so deep that it would heart stop them with just a single glance. Your beauty is something different from this world," said Naruto as Tyr's face turned bright red as she was on the verge of fainting. Everyone heard a giggle as red chakra began to form as it revealed one of the most beautiful women in the entire elemental nations. "Why aren't you the charmer Naruto-kun?" Naruto turned around as he was met with Kiyomi. Kiyomi was the absolute definition of a goddess. She had an angelic heart-shaped face, silky fair skin, and a cute button nose. She had long lusciously crimson hair and sky-blue colored eyes. She stood at an impressive height of 5 feet 9. Naruto grinned. "Why not when I have the most beautiful women in the elemental nations by my side? Any man would be an absolute idiot not to brag about it," said Naruto as Kiyomi held a folding fan to hide her blush. "Such a charmer," said Kiyomi with a beautiful smile on her face. "Now you too." Kiyomi's eyes landed on Gustiva and Tyr, who went stiff as a board. Gustiva and Tyr gulped as they stared at their sensei, who trained them for these past few years. "Your performance today was real satisfied, you two. Great job in handling those bandits," said Kiyomi as the two sighed in relief. However, both of the girls flinched. "I want to see that effort when we are in training and don't hold back so much," said Kiyomi with a stern glare. Naruto chuckled as the two were getting a lecture. However, his chuckle soon faded as he thought about what was going to happen a week from today. The day he returns back to Konoha. Minato sighed for the 100th time today. He had done hundreds of paperwork for today, he was sick of it. He rubbed his head as he went through the stack of the paperwork. "This doesn't even make any sense. How do you even get your ninja stuck inside of a cave?" muttered Minato as he tossed the scroll. His head slumped on the table. "Sometimes I truly wonder why I took this position," said Minato to no one. His thoughts then drifted to his personal life. That's when things went to shit. He barely even went home nowadays, and there was only little time where he could train Natsumi and spend time with Kushina. Here he was the fastest shinobi in the elemental nations but could barely spend time with his family. He began to think about the good times that he spent with his family. There was no issues with the family at all. In fact, their relationship was rather healthy. Kushina knew that being the Hokage for the village and making time would be quite difficult even for Minato, but she knew the importance of the role and help her Minato along the way. Minato looked down at the picture and smiled. There stood himself along with Kushina, who held the stoic vision of Natsumi. Minato frowned and let out a heavy sigh. After Naruto escaped from the village, Kushina had went into a deep depression, locking herself inside of Naruto room and barely even eating anything. Natsumi blamed herself and drove herself into training. She quickly began one of the top kunoichi of her generation, just like her father. Minato remembered the events after capturing the traitor labeled Mizuki Toji. Flashback. Hokage-sama, we found something, said an Anbu member with a monkey mask. Minato's eyes snapped over to the Anbu and flashed over to him with great speed. Minato nearly cringed as he saw the broken and bloodied body of Mizuki. Minato handed the noti of the Chunin to the Anbu member. Here, this might give us a lead on Naruto, quickly take him to Inoichi, said Minato as the Anbu member nodded. Minato looked at the clouds as a single tear fell from his eyes. Please Naruto, be safe. Flashback. Kai. Minato along with the clan heads searching inside the mind of Mizuki. Once they did, they were disgusted and was on the verge of murdering the man. Kushina was the main assaulter of the man as she nearly cut the unconscious Chunin down with her blade. However, what caught them all off guard was what they saw inside of the Chunin head, the fight between him and Naruto. They were surprised that the powerless son of the Hokage had beaten a seasonal Chunin at the age of 8. They were also scared shitless as inside of the mind of Mizuki the nine-tailed fox ripped the man limb from limb. Fear began to set in as the eyes of the strongest tailed beast set on them, specifically on Minato and Kushina. Kushina, being the former holder of the beast, gasped in shock as the tailed beast's hateful eyes landed on her and spoke. You all will suffer. Now get out. Kyuubi roared as everyone was blown out of the mindscape of Mizuki. Once they were all out, every single clan head was in utter terror and horror as the beast that was sealed seemed to be destroying Mizuki. Not a single word was said for hours. Flashback end. Minato sighed. If only we would have noticed Naruto earlier, he would have still be here, was the thoughts of Minato. Scene change. 3 figures were making their way to the gates of Konoha. The one on the far left walking on the side of the middle figure. By the way she was dressed, she was for sure a woman and was the shorter of the group. The figure on the far right seemed to be taller than the other girl. She was an inch taller than the figure on the right. She wielded a giant broadsword on her back. The last figure was an extremely large and built young man. He was the only man and the most deadliest out of the 2 who stuck to his side. These were Naruto, Gestiva and Tear, and they were making their way to Konoha. And why do we have to go here again? Said Gestiva as she crossed her arms with a huff. She did not want to go somewhere that her Naruto was ostracized from. I agree with Nei-chan. These people have wronged you in the past and I do not want to accommodate myself with such scum, spoke Tear coldly as Naruto sighed. He really loved these girls. You have a point, but, as of now, Konoha is the only place that we're able to go. I hate to say. We have made enemies from all around the elemental nations. We have killed Kumo Shinobi. You hate me because of my relations with the Hokage. Suna is allies with Konoha, and Kiri is in a civil war, said Naruto as they could only nod at that logic. Suddenly bubbling red chakra began to form from the stomach of Naruto as it transformed into a small kitsune. Naruto-kun is right, we will have to stay put for the time being, not only because of the refugee, but also because of the Akatsuki group that is out there, said Kiyomi as Naruto messaged her head, making the tailed beast purr in delight. Gestiva growled and ruffled her hair violently. Fine, however, if someone even looks at you wrong, I will tear their eyes out of their sockets and shove it down their throats, said Gestiva with a dark purple aura rotating around her body. Naruto shook his head with a smirk. I wouldn't have it any other way, he said as he cracked his neck. Let's make an entrance, shall we? Said Naruto with a smirk as they all nodded. Faster than a blur they were simply gone. Scene change. Minato was going through the papers until 3 Anbu appeared out of thin air. Hokage-sama. Our sensors detected 2 low Sannin level chakra entered the village unknown with another person that they picked up, said the Anbu. Minato eyes widened as went into full cage mode. Quickly summon the Jonin forces and put the village on lockdown. Cat and Weasel, you 2 are to report to academy and protect the students. The 2 Anbu dropped and bowed. Hi Hokage-sama, said the Anbu shinobis as they shunshined TK the academy. Suddenly a dog-faced Anbu leaf shunshined. Sir, the assailants are in training field 14. Said Dog as Minato nodded. Everyone with me. Multiple screams of "Hi Hokage" were sent through the office. Before Minato could leave, the door burst open as Kushina stood there in her Jonin outfit and her Benihime blade in her hands. I am coming too, Minato, said Kushina as the look she gave him made him choose his next words carefully. Why yes. Follow me, he said as everyone took of to Training Ground 14. Training Ground 14 asterisk. Geez, when are those bastards going to show up? I am getting bored, said Gustiva as she sat on top of her dragon-slaying sword and had the cloak hoodie over her face hiding her features. The same went for Tyr as she was resting, her back against the tree, while Kiyomi with her fox form sat inside of her lap. Naruto sat mid-air meditation as his red aura enveloped his entire body, making him glow. Naruto took a deep breath as he slowly lowered to thr ground and crossed his arms. He slowly opened his eyes, revealing crimson-red orbs. They're here. As soon as he said that, a kunai was planted into the ground and in a yellow flash a figure crouched before standing to his full height. The man-cape flapped into the wind as it showed the kanji for 4th Hokage. Behind him, 10 dozen Anbu, Jonin alike stood behind him. Kushina was by his side as she had her sword drawn, glaring at the figures. Minato glared at them. Who are you, and state your purpose for being in this village, said Minato as he held his kunai in a reverse grip. Underneath, Gustiva gave him a bloodthirsty grin. Our name is not important, however there is something that we must see your Hokage about, said Gustiva as a random Jonin intervened. How dare you come here and act like you own the place? I will put you in your place, said the Jonin as without the permission of the Hokage he charged. Gustiva smirked. This is what I was waiting on, she said as she sent a kick to the man as he was sent sailing. Everyone's eyes widened as they barely even saw the kick. Some other Jonins, Anbu, charged as Gustiva breezed through them like they were nothing. Kushina junped in and landed towards Naruto as she sent out a kick towards his head. Her eyes suddenly widened as the kick was blocked by Tyr. Tyr still had her cloak on as Kushina could only see her green color eye. Your fight is with me. Kushina blocked the kick but was pushed back a good feet. Remember, don't kill, whispered Naruto to her as she nodded. Minato cold calculating eyes narrowed onto Naruto, whose eyes had been closed this entire time. Who are you and what do you want with my village? As of now this is looking as an act of war on your part, said Minato as Naruto crimson orbs landed on the man and spoke for the first time. Trust me, we were looking for no problem, as Naruto said that a random Jonin was sent across his head screaming like a little girl, as the two heard Gustiva boisterous laughter. Naruto's sweat dropped. As I was saying, we aren't necessarily here to cause any problems of your village, said Naruto as Minato gave him a look. Look around you, if you aren't here to cause trouble, what the hell are you doing to my shinobi? Said Minato as he clutched his 3-pronged kunai. Naruto looked around at the strongest shinobi of the leaf who were running away from Gustiva, who changed them with a dim-winked grin along with her Dragon Slayer sword. His eyes then traveled over to Kushina and Tyr, who was panting from their battle. Naruto's sweat dropped again. Sorry about them. They only wanted to test your shinobi, said Naruto as Minato eyebrow twitched. Gustiva. Tyr? Naruto called as Gustiva stopped in her tracks and walked over to Naruto with a snarl while Tyr looked at Kushina coldly. Kushina looked back at the girl. You're a strong kunoichi. If only my son had a girl like you out there, Kushina said sadly as Tyr sunshined next to her. Minato looked at the entire training ground as he saw the aftermath and sighed at the bodies of the unconscious shinobi and kunoichi. If you are here for peace then talk, said Minato coldly as Naruto looked around the area. His eyes traveled back to Naruto. Not here. The Hokage office will do just perfectly, said Naruto as Minato's eyes narrowed even more. Also, why don't you come out of hiding, said Naruto as a ball of red energy slammed into a tree, knocking the person out of it. This was Jiraiya of the Sannin as the man appeared next to Minato. Oi brat, how in the hell were you able to sense me? Asked Jiraiya with a look towards Naruto, who kept his attention to Minato. Anyways, we will be in the Hokage office, said Naruto as he grabbed the two by the waist and vanished into thin air. Minato's eyes widened. Quick grab on, said Minato as Kushina and Jiraiya held onto Minato, who vanished in a yellow flash. As they all reappeared, there stood Naruto in the Hokage chair reading the scroll of sealing as he couldn't help but let out a whistle. These jutsu really could defeat a cage, especially this jutsu. Reaper Death Seal. The three immediately got on guard as Minato released killing intent towards Naruto. "At ease, Hokage," said Naruto as he stood up from the chair. Minato sighed as he walked around and sat in his chair and put his arms on his desk and folded his fingers, resting his chin on them. "This will be the last and only time I say this." "Who are you?" said Minato, glaring at them. Kushina stared at the tallest figure among the intruders. For some reason she felt as she knew that male of the group. "Does that mean we get to take off this godawful hood?" said Gustiva with hope in her voice as Naruto shrugged. "Yay, sure." Gustiva sighed in relief as she removed her hood, revealing her short hair and round face that would make any man submit to her beauty. Kushina noticed the girl and her sword. It all then became to connect the dots to her and someone she knew from her past. "Why, how do you have that sword?" said Kushina desperately as Gustiva looked down at the blade. Gustiva looked at the Naruto's supposed mother. "Because this is my father's blade, the Dragon Slayer blade," said Gustiva as next Tear removed her hood. Minato looked at his wife worriedly, seeing her shocked and horrified face. "Kushina, what is it?" asked Minato as she turned to him. Kushina's eyes widened even more. "I don't understand. These are Guts and Casca children," she said as the girls held an impassive face. Minato's expression turned into a confused look. Who exactly is that?" he said, his curiosity getting the better of him. Kushina gulped. "He was my sensei and was also known as the Black Swordsman," she said as Jiraiya's eyes widened and stepped back. There was only two people in this entire world that the legendary sage Jiraiya feared in his entire life, and that was Hanzo the Salamander and the infamous Black Swordsman. "I heard that the man had died a couple of years ago along with his entire family who had disappeared," said Jiraiya, thinking about the only man to defeat him. "Yes, he did die by saving us. However, his legacy did not. The same man who killed our father was slain by him," said Tear as she pointing to the hooded figure. Kushina sighed heavily. The man was like a second father figure to her, and to know that he was killed, it left a wound in her heart. Kushina along with the others turned her head to Naruto. "But that leaves us with you?" Naruto chuckled. "You would really think that the people you once called parents would recognize you?" Minato and Kushina immediately out the pieces together and nearly collapsed. There stood the failure of their family, the regret of Minato and Kushina. There stood Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze in the flesh. Minato fell back into his chair, his mind not fully processing this information. Kushina stood petrified, her entire body went stiff as she reached out. "My baby boy." Kushina took a step forward, but before she could advil she stepped back, seeing the look inside of the eyes of Naruto. "Kushina-sama, I would refrain from touching me," said Naruto coldly, causing her to flinch. Minato was starting to lose his shit. The stress and guilt had been mixing so long that it had been eating at his mental state. "Anyways, Hokage-sama, me and my team would like to join this village," said Naruto, not even glancing at Kushina, who could stare in shock. Jiraiya snapped out of his daze and narrowed his eyes at the banished heir. "Of all times, why do you want to join back the Leaf? You could have just stayed inside of the Leaf in the beginning," said Jiraiya at Kushina, who glared at him. "Are you accusing my Sochi as a traitor, you pervert?" said Kushina, gritting her teeth. Minato had to lock in as he shook his head, still a bit dazzled from the shocking news. Jiraiya-sensei is right, Naruto. We need to induct a reasoning for your return," said Minato as he straightened himself. Naruto sighed. "I was sure that you was smarter than that, Minato," said Naruto, confusing them. "What do you mean?" said Minato, his eyebrows furrowing. "First, when the Kyuubi was sealed inside of me and Natsumi. You sealed the chakra of the fox inside of Natsumi and the physical body inside of me," said Naruto as they were listening intently, a tad bit confused. Naruto sighed. "Chakra is the life form of anything but found in everything. For example, say that there was 3 sealing tags. One tag is filled with chakra while the other 2 are blank. The chakra is extracted from said sealing tag and transferred into another while the main is sealed within the other sealing tag. Meaning that the more the chakra is being drawn, then the more the chakra return," said Naruto as Minato and Kushina jaw dropped. So you are saying that the Kyuubi chakra is slowly returning to the main source, said Minato, horrified, along with Jiraiya, who began to panic. Also, there is a threat that is looming, said Naruto as Jiraiya finished for him. The Akatsuki, he said as Naruto nodded. But how do you know about them? Asked Jiraiya seriously as Naruto explained. Because I killed one of their members, said Naruto. This shocked the hell out of the three shinobi. I also know some of the members, however this will not benefit me, so we will take our leave, said Naruto as he turned to leave. However, Minato interrupted. No, stop, said Minato as the group stopped. Please, we were just a bit worried, said Minato as Naruto held an impassive face. Tell me about this Akatsuki and I will allow you into our ranks, said Minato as Naruto nodded. I know a few of their members. Some are named Kisame Hoshigiri, Deidara, Sasori, and Kakazu. I however do not know their leader. I however know a small part of their plan, said Naruto as Minato nodded for him to go on. Their plan is to capture the tailed beast and use them as weapons. At this they all gasped in shock. The thought of S-rank shinobi in a group was one thing, but the tailed beast alone was a national threat. Naruto continued. They work in groups together to capture Jinchuriki. However, in 3 years I believe they would begin their search of all tailed beast, said Naruto as Minato breathed out a heavy sigh. This was a lot of information to take in. The room was silent after that. No one said a word. Now you're part of the deal, said Naruto as Minato smiled before writing something on a piece of paper. Take this slip of paper to the academy and ask for Iruka Amino. Today is the graduation test for the academy students, said Minato with a eye smile. Gustave's eyes widened. Academy? We nearly took down your entire village. What do you mean academy? Said Gustave in shock and anger. Naruto sighed and dragged her out of the office. Once they were out of the door, Naruto turned to her as she gave him a look. Relax, Gustave-chan, we're not staying in this village for long. It's only until the Akatsuki threat is over, said Naruto as she calmed down with a pout. But giving us the title of a stupid academy student is too low. Hell, they should make me the Hokage, she said as Naruto chuckled. Tear gave her sister a smile. First to the academy sleeps with Naruto-kun tonight, was the only thing she said as she vanished in a blur. Gustave's eyes widened. Oh shit, she said and vanished in a blur. Naruto had a small blush on his face as Kiyomi teased him. When will I catch a break? He said as he sighed before taking flight. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.